You know, there's some people you meet and you just really enjoy having a conversation. It's like when you go get something to eat at a restaurant and you're like, damn, when I go back, I'm getting the same thing. That's kind of what I felt like with this conversation with my friend Lincoln here. You know, Lincoln's actually done a lot of things. You know, he's traveled from his own home res over to the Midwest, and that's a big transition for some. Before I get into more of his story, I should actually introduce him and play along the podcast for you guys. So please, let's give Lincoln a warm welcome and shout out to him as well and what he's been doing. He's from Navajo Nation, and yeah, let's get this started.
Fair is going to be happening. So tomorrow is going to be the big parade. It's a huge thing. It clogs up the streets, candy everywhere, crowd, people, food, everything. So, you know, people from all over the reservation, the Navajo reservation, and other tribes, people come here, watch it, enjoy it. And it's the first time that we're actually having the fair for 2 years because of the pandemic. So everyone's really excited to get back together and see each other.
What is something you're like looking forward to most? Like, come fair time, is it the food, the people? Is there a certain activity, maybe a stand-up comedian, a concert? What stands out to you this year?
Well, for me, it's not really any kind of specific event. I mean, the parade's always great. It's more of a remembrance for me because as a kid growing up, right, on the reservation, my dad struggled to find work. And I remember, and as a kid, I didn't know this until now. My dad would tell us, because I would cry to him saying, I want to go to the carnival. I want to go to these things. And he said he couldn't. And I thought he was just being a jerk, right? And he would say, all right, let's go out and go pick up cans, go pick up all of these, you know, these aluminum cans. And I'm like, why? I don't want to pick up trash. You know, I'm a kid. I didn't know. So after we got cans and we were almost done, I started crying because I was mad. I was so mad at him that we were picking up trash. And then he stopped me and he picked up a can and said, this is going to get you to go onto the carnival rides, to get you food, to get you to go there. And I said, why? And I will never forget this. He explained to me, this turning in aluminum cans and taking it into a recycler will give us the money. And it just, for me as a kid, it clicked, right? The reality of what I am living on the reservation and having one parent who didn't have a job, right? Who struggled with substance abuse. So for me, coming back to the fair and being able to watch these things, it's just enjoying and seeing other families enjoy just be together because I can't have that, you know? So I'm just happy to be back, to see the fair, to smell a bunch of greasy food. And I mean, I want to ride some rides too, but it's just kind of me taking it all in. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's really cool. And after you reached out, I looked at your TikToks. I was actually scrolling there for a while. And one that stuck out to me, I might've liked it and kind of showed my colors of what I'm going to try to highlight, was your McDonald's one. Where you would go to, or your random parking lots, I should say, in the res. I should let you explain it better than me, but it really stuck out to me because, I'll just have you explain the TikTok first before I go more into it. If you could explain that, I'd love to hear it out.
Yeah. So the one you're referencing is the most recent one of me in a random parking lot. And I'm trying to be more health conscious. So I'll buy, it's McDonald's. It's not healthy, but it's healthy enough that it's a smaller portion that I can be okay. That get out of the way. All right. So I get Happy Meals. I like the toy. I will go to parking lots because I don't have a lot of friends to just go and hang out with at lunch. Right. And certain parts of where I'm at, a parking lot is a place to just be yourself, to put on music, to look at TikTok videos, to eat, and just kind of, for me, just to sit there and watch the world around me. So that's what I did. In law school, I did the same thing. I didn't have many friends out in South Dakota. So I would go, get a meal and sit in a random parking lot and watch the world of all of these different people just live. And that's what I did. But the unique thing for this one was it was the first time coming back to my community on the reservation since living off and leaving since 2008 to be here and just feel so out of place with a place that I grew up at, right? With my own tribe, with my own community. So it was more of a surreal slap at the face of, you may have distanced yourself from being a part of your roots of living on the reservation and growing up with everybody. And the reality is that that's true. I grew out of some friendships, and a lot of these places have changed, and I'm unfortunately a part of strangers sometimes. So that's what I was trying to say, is that I'm trying to reconnect, and it sucks because I miss growing up as a kid and being a part of this community.
I think you really hit a good point on it. It's like, I think in the video you said there's like you almost have this golden light of when you come back. It's like, oh, I'm gonna come back, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, hey, he's back from school. Let's go to McDonald's. Let's go to movies. And then you're like, oh wow, everyone's kind of like got kids. They got mortgages now, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, you got no hair, or you grew your hair out.
Yeah. Reality has moved on for. I mean, it was inevitable but for me, I think how I stated it was that, you come back hoping to just continue on where you left off in your childhood and all the good things that came with it. And I am 32 years old, but I still feel young at heart. But every time I wake up or get up too fast, my bones snap, and it's just like, oh gosh, I'm getting older. And I I feel like I've left so many things undone as a kid, especially being connected with home, because I grew up in such a turbulent life. And I've experienced so many things that many young people shouldn't or wouldn't experience in the latter part of their years. So coming back to this, of course, I thought that I could just pick up and, like, hey, let's all go out to the movies. And it's like, oh, you have two kids. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, well, we got to find one they could come to,
Yeah, definitely.
And you're like, man, I wanted to watch the new scary movie. So
Yeah.
where'd you go to school? So like, give me the map of where you're born, or for the people who don't know, where your tribal affiliation, and where you went to school, and like kind of like a timeline of what's going on.
Okay, so I was born and raised here in Shiprock, New Mexico. That is located on the Navajo Nation. I am, for the purposes of the census and our own tribal registry, 4/4 Navajo, which equates to full blood. Let's just put past that whole debate on that part. But I grew up here, graduated from Shiprock High School in 2008, and then did undergrad in the summer of 2008 as well, at the University of New Mexico. So here's where it gets a little bit weird, because during my time at the UNM undergrad, my father was killed by a drunk driver. So let's be real. I took it hard, and I just gave up, right? I gave up. I dropped out of school. I got suspended. And so I took some time to just work, and I was lost. I didn't know what to do. So all I did was work. But then, and this is probably a blessing in disguise, the job that I was at, they tricked me into believing that I got fired. So I left, and they said I quit. So that was probably to save them on, workers, whatever that is. But I re-enrolled at Central New Mexico Community College. And this is where I learned that you can pay cheaper credits and have them transfer to a bigger university and still get quality education out of it. Had I known that, I would have went to community college a long time ago and saved a buttload of money, but I didn't. But thankfully, the good people there got me back on track. And as soon as I got all the credits that could transfer back to UNM, I did that. So, I think in the fall semester of 2017, I graduated finally with my bachelor's in political science and my undergrad in business management. At that point, I remember at graduation, and for undergrad graduation, I remember just stopping and saying to myself, kind of looking up at the ceiling with all these other kids, right? Everyone that was so happy. And my family, of course, was there. But I remember having a moment to myself saying, I did it, right? Because I remember my dad was so excited I went to college. And I remember just kind of saying under my breath, like, I did it, Dad. But I didn't. I knew to myself that I was not done. So I went into the Pre-Law Summer Institute program, which is a program run for young Native American law students who are hoping to go to law school. I got into that program and I did that for the summer. I graduated from that program, and then got into the master's program, which was a 2-year new program at the University of New Mexico School of Law. Now, I am the first Native American to ever get that degree from that university, from that law school in 1 year, the second student ever to complete it in 1 year, because it was a new program. And then I went to the University of South Dakota Knudsen School of Law, did that, and here I am.
You're here on the pod. That's awesome. So explain the difference from New Mexico, from where you're from, to somewhere like South Dakota. I've been to North Dakota. My cousins went to United Tribes. They played basketball over there. And they did it for however long they did it. And I don't remember how long it was. But they loved it over there, for what I can see from the outside. What did you think of South Dakota when you were over there?
Culture shock, right? I've been to LA, I've been to the West Coast, I've been to Florida, I've been to the East Coast, I've been to Texas. Where I haven't been, and what I was never prepared for, was the Midwest. I was not prepared for the culture shock and the exclusivity of those communities out there. And let me just say this, that this has been my own experience of being out there, my truth, and I didn't like it. I never felt that my difference of being a Native American living in the United States would ever be made so apparent to me. I never thought that I would go and try to meet friends, and the first thing that I would pick up on is that they wouldn't want to befriend me because I was different. Everyone else, of course, they grew up together, and they were all the same race, right? So I didn't know, right? I never explicitly faced racism or bias because of my difference. But being in South Dakota, being in the Midwest, that was the first place I ever experienced it, and it sucked. I hated it. And to this day, I think that there's so many different things, so many problems in South Dakota, in the Midwest, that aren't addressed. And, I think people are just complacent of it. And you can see it with the differences of how the tribes interact with, the state government out there, as opposed to how the tribes have over cooperation with, the state government here in New Mexico. And I never knew that until going to South Dakota.
Just the differences over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many, so I didn't hear the part. I mean, I might've heard it. The law school that you went to in South Dakota, was it a native college, or was it just like a law so you were, I'm guessing, one of the only, if not the only, native there, just based off percentages in my experience in college?
So when the first year, I think there was about 1, 2, 3, I think there was only 4 Native Americans in my class. The second year, I think it was the second or third year, at the end of it, there was only 2, me and another person. And I think the stats, when I looked it up, there was, of course, as far as diversity, the law school has poor numbers. And as far as Native Americans, it baffled me that, everyone loved to use the words, right? South Dakota, Lakota, and everything, right? Everything has some Native American connection, but there's hardly any Native Americans around. And I fault that to the policies and the education programs, and even like the student services, especially at that university, they were terrible. I've never experienced a university that was so difficult with me, and I just never understood why.
I mean, especially coming from somewhere like University of New Mexico, and where you went to, I'm guessing there's a lot more resources there, because there's a lot more natives there too, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, I think to this day, the biggest regret for me was attending the University of South Dakota Knudsen School of Law. I think I would have been far better going to a different law school that offered more opportunities, more programs, more things like, an Indian law certificate program that, that law school didn't have it. The University of New Mexico School of Law has one. ASU School of Law has one. And, I think I felt robbed of richer experiences. And I think I would have been far more successful had I been to a different law school.
So in that sense, I mean, again, I didn't say it, but I'm sorry to hear about your father. In that decision, when that happened, was there a big impact where you're like, is that why you applied to South Dakota? How did that, like, how did that come up? Were you just like, I need to get out of here for a bit? Or was it just like, oh, they sent me a piece of mail, I'm going to go check it out?
I got roped into it. No. So at the end of, graduating from UNM Law with my master's in law, I was late to applying to law schools. And I was like, I'm going to take a year off. But I got a professor who was teaching in that pre-law program who came from, USD Law to teach there. And she encouraged me to apply. She was like, apply at USD Law, right? And I was like, all right, I did. I applied, and like 2 days later, they give me a call like, you've been accepted, but we start on Monday. Mind you, they told me this on a Thursday. So I'm like, I have to uproot my life, drive across the country, and be there for class on Monday, right? On orientation on Monday. And all experience, whether it's good or bad, is still experience, and experience enough for you to learn from. And I learned, first of all, I can move quick.
Mm-hmm.
And, I, as much as I didn't, looking at like, I could have done with all of that. I'm grateful for it, because I wouldn't have the perspective that I have today, knowing the differences of how people and how tribes are treated in other parts of this country, as opposed to being here, right? Had I not ever experienced that, I would never have known and lived in my own bubble of complacency. But that's not the case. I went out there, I lived out there, I experienced, and I saw these things that were so different than anything that I grew up on the reservation here or living life.
Wow, what a story! Like, just hearing like where you're at now, and so you went to college, and so now in present time, so you're back home and you found a gig at home. Did you apply from South Dakota? Like, I'm going back home. I need a job back home. Describe that process. Like, I can't wait to get back. Who's going to hire me?
Yeah. So, the law school will send out all of these things of like, oh, job postings, but they only send out job postings for South Dakota things. And I remember I reached out to that office and I was like, hey, I'm looking for internships and jobs, and they didn't help me, right? None of them helped me. So I had to go and do it myself. So when I came back, this past year, I'm like, I'm going to find a job. I got to do something. So I sent out resumes, and mind you, this was, tail end of the pandemic where people were not really hiring, right? And it was just tough. So I went onto my tribe. Someone's like, go to your tribe's website. So I did. And I saw that they were hiring, different jobs from government, politics, and in the, Justice Department, prosecutor. It's like, I have the credentials and I'm willing to learn and do that. And to this day, I'm a Navajo Nation prosecutor.
Dang, what a that's just so cool how, like, you never really know until you start looking at these jobs. You're like, oh, I qualify for this. I could do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's one really nice thing about with school, and not to bash on people who aren't, but I just know when I look at, like, my credentials as well, and I'm looking for new jobs or something, it's like, oh, I could do this,
Yeah.
And yeah, that's so. Now you're doing that, and then TikTok. I need to know, how did you just see me on For You page? How did we come across? Because it's funny because a lot of my followers and fans are in New Mexico, Arizona area, and I've actually been on the YAF podcast, which is a Navajo run podcast by three guys named Adrian, Dell, and Hirsch. And I thought you heard of me through them, maybe, but I'm very curious to see how you found me.
So, the For You page is something it's foreign. It has its mind of its own. It throws people together and things that you would never know you would either have in common or, whatnot. But I remember I think it was like late, one evening, tired. I was going through, and I just happened to see your background. I was like, oh, that looks indigenous enough. I just started listening, and then like it was, I think it was a joke you told, but then I went onto your page and I saw more, and I was like, all right, I'm enticed enough to what is this guy about? So I remember I was like, all right, let me go over to the actual podcast channel,
Mhm.
gave a listen to it, and I was like, I like this. This guy is someone who can take the stories of life and can laugh at some of those real aspects of it, and can join other people and share those stories, because as Native American culture, a lot of what we do is storytelling and sharing stories. And I'm like, isn't this weird how two different people from two different tribes or two different places can just sit here right now between me and you and have this conversation and exchange that. And I saw you doing that with other people, and I'm like, wow, I mean, let's see if he's open to hearing another person.
Yeah, I was so pumped when, because get this. So I actually on TikTok, there's like, I'm sure you've seen on messages, you could shut them off. Like, so no one can message you. And I
Yeah,
usually go, okay, if people want to message me, they can message me on Instagram, but TikTok, I don't want to like go viral and people are just messaging me random stuff.
yeah,
But like 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? If somebody wants to reach out, like 2 weeks ago, I was like, let me just put it on the can request. And I usually never get it. And I kept having this like, when you get a notification on your phone and it won't go away and you keep trying to find what that little number is, you're like, what is the
yeah,
number? So I was like, I don't have no one liked it, no one commented. And I was like, let me go look at the messages. And I saw your message and I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I left this on so I could get messages. And then I told my girlfriend about it. She's like, do it. Yeah, go for it. That sounds awesome. I always tell her about whatever goes down.
yeah,
And it was super exciting to just see other natives out there doing something,
yeah,
and to hear what you're doing now and how you've come, and also the struggles you've gone through, because I know I should definitely identify with the problem of coming home. Or I guess I should say I've seen individuals go through this, because I have had a
yeah,
very good luxury of coming home, and people are always like, oh, let's do something. And I'm young enough now where I could experience that, but I've seen time and time again people go home and it's like, man, what am I doing home? I've had some friends
yeah,
who were at Wazoo where I was at, and they would say, I went home and I wanted to come back here because I didn't really get what I wanted at home.
yeah,
And it's cool to see that people are finding their ways and in what they do, for sure.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, man, I definitely want to check out the Navajo Fair, to be honest with you. Like, I definitely got to go one day.
You need a chaperone, so you just let me know, and yeah, just let me know. I'll be sure to just chaperone you around. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah, it's a good time, and it does mean a lot, because it does remind me of my childhood, especially with my dad and yeah, my brother. And you know um so yeah, just in 2011 my dad was
Mm.
killed, and recently my brother in 2019 was found dead as well. So
Oh, wow.
it's for me to reconnect with the things that I remember, just the good times, right? Because they weren't perfect people, but they were family, and I love my dad, right? And he had his demons, and which is tragic, because a lot of people, a lot of men and women on the reservation struggle with substance abuse,
Mm.
and it ravages families, and the untold pandemic of Indian country. And it doesn't seem like there's much things happening to fix it. We all know the problem, it's just that there's no solutions to it, nothing being done. And that was one of the things of why I wanted to go into the field, is to be an advocate, or to be able to influence policy, or to be someone at some point in my life that I can say, you know what, this shouldn't be a complicated issue, just to do what is right.
Mm.
So it's a reminder for me every time I go home and I go to my dad's grave, because it sucks. For the rest of my life, I will never hear my dad's voice. I will never hear him again. And I will never have that opportunity to laugh with my brother, right? As horrible as he was to me,
Hmm.
he was still my brother. And it sucks.
Wow. That pain is something I know a lot of people, you could go two ways with pain like
Mhm.
that. You could go the bad way and, join. I've actually heard of, I'm getting chills talking about this because it's, real.
Yeah.
Um, when people pass on reservations, I know, and our own, I should say, and it happens in patterns of three sometimes, which is sad.
Yeah.
Someone passes, and then some that grief goes within, the whole family. Everybody
Yeah.
experiences, say with someone, their distant friend knew them, their friend knew them, goes trickles down, I should say.
Yeah.
So to see, you as being a brother, I've never experienced that pain, but how did you, for people who are probably going through the same experience, how did you turn that into something positive? Like what was something that helped you in those times of grief?
Yeah. Well, everything that I've been through was not without difficulty. Let me just say that life, the beautiful struggle called life, right? We all live it. We're here, and people go through it in different ways. And I don't know the magic booklet to be successful in life, right? All I can say is that I went through some really dark crap in my life, and I had an option presented to me. I can let it devour my life. I can do the easy thing. I can drink my sorrows away
Mm.
and be angry and do anything I wanted without regard to anyone else and just give up. And some days, yeah, I still feel like that. There's some days I'm just like, you know what? I just want to go home, drink, play Apex, and do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But, for me, there's something within me, and I call it, my faith beckons me that I have my own purpose and calling. And what I believe that, you know, if you are doing something, if you're a doctor, if you're a police officer, if you're a fireman, if you're a podcaster, if you have the platform to do good in life, you don't have an obligation not only to yourself, to your family, but you have an obligation to God to do
Mm.
it well, to do it with all your heart. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I doing? I can't, right? I cannot just do nothing and see other people who can't escape that. If it's within my power to get up every morning, to drag myself out of bed, as terrible as it is, right? Some days you just want to lay there for an extra minute or two. For me, I struggle, and it was an ugly fight. But I remember telling myself every damn day, just get through this day.
Mm.
If you do that and you repeat it every day, you will actually look back and you see how far you've come. And it sucks, I know it, but what are the options? And
Yeah.
those were the things I'd always tell myself. And I'm not going to lie, I had some luck, and I think that's necessary. But it really comes down to your own willpower as a person to overcome your own demons, and and see yourself in 5, 10, 30 years of, is that what I really want, or do I even see myself in the future at all?
Yeah. I mean, I future trip a lot, to be honest with you. I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I need, and I think, especially, I just don't like this word, but I'm going to say it. The word academia. I just don't like the word. When in academia, I should say, like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of constant, like, oh, by this time next year, you're going to be on track, or there's a lot of like things you should do in this order. Get, your associates, bachelors. There's that kind of stress. So I think that's where I get like some of the, I guess the stressors of like, oh, where am I going to be in 2 years? And it's good to have a
Yeah.
5-year plan, but I think I've started to do better mentally when I go, hey, okay, I got to get through today. And how am I going to do it? And what are going to be some things that I could do today? Like for example, before this pod, I was like, okay, I could sit here all day and just kind of just, over fixate on what I'm going to talk about. Or I
Yeah.
could so I went on a walk to the gym, did the gym, and like thought as I was doing things instead of just sitting there. And I'm not, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to be like, oh yeah, I hit the gym to my followers, not trying to sound like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's good too. Like there's that aspect in every way of life, is just don't, just get through the day
Yeah.
somehow,
Yeah.
however
Yeah.
you do it, things that you like. So or like how you with the parking lot things, that's just a small thing of going to kind of ground yourself a bit.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me sound a little creepy, but no, like I think, in my short, life of, teenage to where I am now, I've done so many things. I've worked jobs of cleaning toilets in concert venues. I've been an actor in, movies, and one of my movies went on to Lifetime Movie Network, right? Crazy, right? Things like that. And, doing odd end jobs of just being a concessionist and just doing the most random things in most random places, and then to end up here talking to you, being a a Navajo Nation prosecutor, and just looking back of all of these things I've done. It's like, good God, I feel like I've lived 4 lifetimes. Because like, yeah, if I may not be that old, or some people say I'm not old at all, but my soul is old and I'm tired. But
Yeah.
as I said before, I have been put into this place and in this moment for a purpose. And, I don't have that obligation just to myself, not to my family, but also to God, to do everything in my power to do it well and do it right. So here I am.
So I got to ask you 2 questions. You said 2 things that like trickled light bulb. So I got to know what movie you were acted in. And then also, where were you selling concessions and what kind of stand was it? Because I actually had a concession. I did like a bit on concessions a little bit on a couple episodes ago. So I'm definitely interested to hear how that was as well.
So yeah, I'm going to answer the question of concession stands. So the concession stands I did in movie theaters, and I did that Allen Theaters, which is New Mexico-ish area, locally owned family. They were the first family that took a chance to hire me. So thank you, Allen family. You guys are awesome. I worked there. What I didn't like about working there was I was never promoted for doing jobs of being a supervisor, but I loved it. I mean, yeah, the smell of popcorn at some point stinks, but I love just being there, getting food. I loved it, right? I love being able to take a moment to just stand in the doorway of watching movies and then go back, grab some popcorn. And, I loved that. So I did that. Just like odds and concession things and high school stuff. But totally spaced on your first question.
Oh, the movie one. I kind of gave you two. I gave you two in the same thing, kind of. What movie was it that you acted in?
So I did. I co-starred in a movie called Jordan. It's about a girl who, a young girl who. Oh, I'm going to give away the plot. A girl who gets into an accident with her mother, and she goes to try to find help, and the mother comes back, says, "Oh, I'm the mother, that's my daughter," and the girl says, "That's not my mother." And it becomes a whole mystery about who this girl's mother really is she really out there? And how my character gets into this is, the girl stays with the sheriff, who's my on-screen character father, and I help my younger brother solve the mystery of the girl was telling the truth and the mother's still out there, and we go out on this little adventure to go and find her. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those drama thrillers that surprisingly ended up on Lifetime Movie Network. It's weird seeing yourself like on TV, and for me, I just I don't like it. But apart from that, I've done like a bunch of other like small independent movie things that premiered at different places. But that was kind of the bigger ones.
So are you getting like checks too? You get like, a couple of dollars in the mail, every month?
You're talking about residuals? No, I don't.
Oh, what? Yeah, your next one, make sure they get those residuals in there.
Yeah, definitely. Got to get that in my contract. Well, I don't have an agent anymore. So like as soon as I get an agent, and if I ever want to go back into acting, I mean, it's there, and I enjoy that too. It's fun, but I think my passion is kind of helping people with real world problems and finding real world solutions for them.
Well, that's great. Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I always wanted to be, I know it sounds like I'm going towards the movie part, but I'm talking movie. I wanted to work at the movie theaters. Get this joke. It was actually about a year ago. I was kind of like in between jobs because I work at a radio station as of now. Yeah. But like before that, I was like, man, I just quit my job at Nordstrom. Like, I just want a job I can go to, not have to think much. Just like a little easy summer job, And I was talking to my girlfriend and my family. I said, yeah, I think I'm just gonna go apply to the movie theaters, man. I've always wanted to work at a movie theater. And everyone's like, but you don't need to do that now. And I was just like, man, but I want to go. Like literally how you explained it. I was like, yeah, around popcorn, walk in the movies. Like, all right, that sounds fine to me.
Yeah, literally, it's like free movies, and yeah, you don't need to think that much. Your brain doesn't hurt at the end of the day. Your soul is not torn apart a little bit at a piece every time you come back from work. No, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I think that if I had a chance, like in my retirement time, to be able to at least if they won't hire me, let me volunteer to work at a concession stand at the
Yeah.
movie theater,
Yeah.
get me back in there. Because I enjoyed it, but I think I was fortunate enough to work for a good, family owned movie theater that treated employees well.
Well, that's probably, yeah. You weren't at like Fandango or Regal or, these big chains who, I don't know. They could be great, I should
Yeah.
say. But yeah, I mean, I definitely have had my fair share of odd jobs. I was a delivery driver. I actually talked about last episode for like 2 weeks, and I was like, this is not for me, man. But anyway, we're approaching the last part. I just want to leave this part open for anything that I may have missed or things that you have come, like if you have a stand-up tour date or you have anything coming up you want to share. This is the time.
No, I don't have anything. I tend, I'm coming to terms with, the so-called popularity or being recognized by different people in random places. And, I'm not anything like a celebrity. I'm nothing of that. I'm just like you, I count my pennies. I door dashed it, at some point in my life, right? I did everything. I struggled, I, waited in food line. So like, I am I'm just telling my story because, everyone always says that at some point, Lincoln, you need to write a book because you've been through so much in the small 3 decades of your life. And some other people will hear that and look to you as a role model. And some people have said that to me. And if I can, at my deathbed, right? I want to be able to look back on my life thinking that I've made some substantive difference in at least one person's life. I would love to do it for a wider audience, right? To help people. That's why I hope to go to vote for, run for Congress at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I know that if I am dying and my last breath has some ounce of regret, I know I'm not living my life to my fullest right now. As much as I want to say that I'm done and I just want to give up, I am letting down not only, myself, but, the family and friends that have, supported me. And, I often think about my dad and my brother and like, what would they think? What would my dad say? And it sucks because I can hear his voice. He wouldn't judge me, right? But he would still encourage me because I know my dad would want me to always be better than what he couldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't live with that, right? So that's why I try to at least wake up every day and just give it, if it's not 100%, at least 51%, because that's still,
better than half.
Still, yeah, it's still, yeah. I mean, if we're rounding up, that's a good 100%. But no, I mean, in my spare time, I'm just like reading. I just started actually reading a book. It's by a New Mexico author too, L.G. Benito, and he wrote this new book called Awaken, Descend into Darkness. And it's a good fantasy book that I enjoy as well. But for me, it's also, if it's not reading a book or a good book like his, it's playing Apex online with my friends, or I'm watching a movie. Like right now, after this, I'm probably going to watch the new Hocus Pocus too, because I grew up with that, right? but other than that, no, I don't have anything else planned. I know that there's other people interested in wanting to hear my story and want to apparently people enjoy listening to me, but I just want to be a beacon of a model for people, and to know that there's hope, right? And if you feel like you're left out in the world and no one wants to listen to you, or you're not going to be accepted, there was a quote by Dr. Maya Angelou talking about what is the strongest virtue that you think you have or is important. And she said, and this kind of just blew me out of my mind, is that it's courage. It's not bravery. It's not, strength. It's not other these things, right? It's the virtue of courage, because courage is the thing that makes you practice the other virtues consistently. You can't love someone consistently without having the courage to do it. You can't hope for something new without having the courage to wake up and believe that there's hope. And it blew my mind that is the strongest virtue currently that for me I have to live every day, is to be courageous, to, if it's not lead, help someone. If it's not being able to help someone, show them, right? Be an example, a good one, right? So that's what I've been trying to do. But no, nothing big, nothing, no world tour, no, I can't sing. I can act, but I'm not doing any movies for a bit. But no, just kind of continue on my tour of speaking and hopefully spreading a positive message for people out there.
Well, I hope someone caught some positivity or maybe some tips. Definitely on this pod. If I could give you any questions, my last two, I should say, I got to know, what do you play on PC? You Xbox? You PS4? Where do you play Apex on?
Xbox.
Let's go, man. I'm
see,
Xbox too.
See, everyone wants to like, yeah, you should do PC. The graphics are better, everything's smoother. I'm like, but what about this, right?
I'm with you.
Because I grew up on the reservation, right? We had the the PlayStation, the Xbox, and that's how we didn't have PC.
Yep.
Some of us don't even have internet still, right? So, in the amount of juice of internet we can have to power these, consoles today, it's an Xbox or a PlayStation, and that's good enough for me.
Yep, that's what I say too. I mean, hey, if the Ethernet or the Wi-Fi can handle me and I don't lag, that's good for me, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I got to add you. And then lastly, with your experience, is it something that would qualify you for like a tribal position for people who want to get into? I ask this because I know there's some people who follow me that are younger and they want to take experience to figure out how they can get on like tribal senate, or I don't know what you guys call it, board of directors. That's what we call it out here. Would you say like council? Would your line of work be something that would align with that?
Well, anytime anyone wants to go into public office, or if it's tribal office, right? I mean, for me, so let me just say that I believe that all the issues plaguing Indian country of all of our different tribes, right? I think those are external issues that arise from outside the reservation, that are federal issues that need to be addressed and fixed before we can really fix the bigger issues within Indian country, because you can't fix anything stuck in a box. That's why at some point in my life, I want to run for Congress. But if I can offer some sort of advice, it's know your community, know the things that are working, the things that are not working, know the people, right? Because you can't get elected unless people like you. And if you are secluded and then all of a sudden you come out of nowhere and say, I'm running for this, they're going to say, who are you, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to have that initial trust, not to vote for you, to hear you? And that's the part, you just gotta be a part of your community, and people got to trust to first listen to you, and then they'll decide whether or not they'll vote for you. But for me, I'm like, I want to make a good difference in the world. And if I can prosecute and, help, the justice system and gain the trust of my community, not just only on the Navajo reservation or in, my county, but in the district in New Mexico, in my district, if I can gain that trust, right? I trust that they would know that I have the interest of the people of New Mexico at heart, and I want to make a difference, not just a plain difference, a substantive difference that's going to affect every single person. Because at the end of the day, when children wake up, they're going to blink and then boom, they're adults. And if they have the same issues that they went to bed to as a kid, and they're still adults dealing with those issues, there's something broken in our world. And that's what I want to fix.
I hope, and man, I hope you fix it, because then I could be like, hey man, we talked a long time ago, remember that?
I'll get you some VIP passes.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much. And if I'm ever down in New Mexico, I'll let you know. The last time I was in New Mexico, man, was like probably 6 years ago for gatherings. And then I gotta say it. You can probably guess what I'm gonna say. Are you near the Breaking Bad house or anything like that? Are you a big Breaking Bad fan over there?
I actually auditioned for that twice.
The only audition
that I got so close to was meeting one of the episode directors, because I was being considered. I can't remember what. First of all, did I sign an NDA? No, I didn't. Okay, so I can speak about it. Second of all, it was me and some other actor, and it was like a friend of, I think, Walter White's son. I can't remember it specifically, but I remember meeting the producer, one of the producers, and one of the directors for that episode.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I didn't get it because I'm not on, I wasn't in Breaking Bad. But no, nowhere near the house of Breaking Bad. Yeah, no. Apparently she's one of the. She's apparently mean.
Yes,
So I
I've
don't.
heard that.
Yeah. So I don't want to bother her because like it's her private residence, but at the same time, it's like, lady, come on, you
Yeah.
knew what this house was. Like you're looking for trouble, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, just get a cut of the tour fees and just let them take photos of the house. That's they're not coming inside, right?
Yeah.
So,
that would be kind of crazy though, people pulling up. But yeah, like, come on, like, you're right. Like, people knew this was happening. Like, you knew this.
Yeah.
So let's not act different. Or if it's that bad, it's time to get out of there.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, last thing I should say is let people know where they could follow you on. I'll tag it below, but like, if they're just listening in the car, where they could follow you.
Okay. So yeah, my name, Lincoln Mark. I'm Navajo from the Navajo Nation, Shiprock, New Mexico. I only have, I have Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, right? I don't have my own website yet because it's in the works to be built as far as, things I hope to help and just kind of, be someone of, if I can influence be as a motivational speaker, yeah, I mean, if I can change someone's life that way, I'll do that. So that's kind of in the works, but it's just Instagram, Linkwitty, or TikTok, just Lincoln Mark, right? Yeah, and you'll see me with my stoic face of just like with my mug, right? Or Facebook, just Lincoln Mark. You'll see same photo on all platforms. Yeah, I mean, I love meeting new people and making new friends and learning of different experiences. So I'm happy to befriend anybody. So yeah, if you're looking for questions or want advice, not legal advice, but if you're looking for advice, definitely reach out to me.
I was about to say, this is Better Call Lincoln almost right
here. No.
All right, man. Well, again, thank you so much. I'll message you after. I'll send you the post.